All right, cool. Here we go. So it is April 16th. Let's rip into this thing. This is our first one, everybody. So hold off on all the great comments that you have about Garrett's mustache and my attire here. But
you're looking good, man. You're looking fit fab. I think is that like a Wari? Yeah. Like, what are you wearing?
You
like,
what
are you
repping? You see from the chest up. No, I'm actually I don't have any pants on, so I'm completely naked under here. Not really, but so one of the main reasons I wanted to start doing this was because 20 years from now, hopefully there's still YouTube, but 20 years from now, we're going to look back and be like, back when I was starting out a company, or back when literally, you're just going to want to be, guys, we were doing this back then. That's my whole point. I'm just like, to basically document.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're talking about document as in like, you don't want to forget what it was like, or document as in showing what you were thinking along the way as a way for you to kind of like use for future decisions.
Both, and for other people to understand where you came from, right? So like, I think a lot, like I would have loved if Elon Musk had a podcast 20 years ago and basically talk through what he was about. Like, you can see I've seen videos of Mark Zuckerberg when he was like super young, and he sounds like a moron, some of it, not like complete moron, but like just so young. He just,
yeah. No. So what you're saying is like, it's easy to like to get a distorted view of somebody or a company or whatever it is on the back end.
It's very hard,
right? Like I went back and I listened to, the Elon Musk thing is interesting because he kind of like, ever since he got Twitter, he like live tweeted his, whole everything, but like it's very disparate, and it's just like it's not focused because it's like memes, and then we're going to Mars, and like it's all mixed. Versus you say that this is like more focused towards, hey, here's what we were thinking at the time. I mean, that's like why I kind of thought like bodies in business is like fly bodies in business. We're building it right now. It's all about health and wellness, but it's all about like entrepreneurship and business, and like it's mixed together, and
the whole journey, right? Because it all rolls into decision making and making things better, making yourself better. Like, that's what I feel like I've kind of understand. For me anyway, I think the decisions you make outside of your work obviously have a big impact on your work. Essentially, it doesn't predict how well you're going to do, but I think if we're playing the long game, like the Roth IRA of Health, dude, in 20 years from now, we're going to be making like even better decisions, right? Or hopefully, like, that's the goal.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's like live capturing where we were at as kind of this time capsule thing, as well as like you said, like making better decisions, like that reflection. This is like just like live reflection,
100%, and
like what we're going through.
And because people can have their preconceived notions about like how things went back then, and it's like, if you record it, there's no making things up, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
that reminds me of some other things, like what was that? I can't remember what it is. It's Ray Dalio's company. They would like record company meetings.
Exactly, right? And this is what I was going to tell you before we started this was GitLab. I think GitLab, right? They record everything. They're all remote. And so that's why I was getting into, because we just started talking about this, a couple of days ago, and it was like, hey, we're going to record this. And then I listened to the podcast with Lenny's podcast for GitLab, and I'm just like, this is a sign, right? Like, it's just like, oh my God, just they record everything. We're remote. It's just such a vote in this direction.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like we've had a lot of polls, a lot of false starts, and I got the phrase wrong earlier, but letting perfect be the enemy of good, or whatever it is, right? Like, worried that this isn't going to be as great, but I really think that just for us,
that's it.
Okay, so this is also related, not to my topic.
This is just for us, and if other people want to enjoy it,
there's a book called Big Magic. Okay. It's written by I'll look it up. But the lady who wrote Live, Laugh, Love, is that the name of the book? It's the one where she goes on a spiritual journey. She wrote this book called Big Magic. It's all about creativity. I'm reading it because I've, found that, and read an article that was like, hey, for entrepreneurs, creativity and optimism, it's more important to read that than it is about like kind of like muscle movements of like business, because like you are a creative person. You're bringing something new existence. So having like creative courage is very important. Anyway, in that book, she talks about like people who go out and create something for other people. Like, I'm doing this for the world. It doesn't, like, authenticity is like, do we like talking to each other? Oh yeah. So why don't we just like do that? And if we like that, then like it's good. Like reach, it doesn't matter. People can learn, like, going back in time, but also currently, like, go along the journey with us. I think that's just like the most powerful aspect. So I actually have a topic that's related to that whole thing, but I don't want to jump in. You can share yours first if you're feeling up for it, or
Feeling froggy?
I was going to
If I'm
say
feeling
feeling
froggy,
froggy. You
I'll
got
lead.
it.
So yeah, like and Gary V documents literally his entire life. And I shout out Gary V if you ever listen to this, maybe not, but like that, like there's so many, like nowadays he's like, dude, you should live stream your entire life if you really are trying to build a business, build a
Yeah.
brand. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't think, because I'm just like, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little scared, but partly I'm just like, dude, people have so many, like they make it up in their head what they think happened. And I'm just like, I happen. And I would get some inspiration from this if they want to, but also, like you said, this is for us, to be able to look back and be like, oh yeah, dude, that was us. That was us. That's cool.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll jump in the first topic. I wanted to talk about kombucha.
Kombucha. Okay.
I was hoping that reaction. That was like literally my favorite.
It's funny because we've tried this in the past and we planned things out, but I kind of like the surprise. This is good. It's genuine. Yes. Like, okay, so
dude, I literally, and this hit me on Sunday. So yeah, today's Tuesday. This hit me on Sunday. But I mean, I'd been thinking about it a little while. By the way, Garrett, at some point, and I'm marking it here on the podcast, it's going to be documented. I'm going to create some type of sauerkraut company with like, and it's going to probably be called like Killer Kabbage.
Dude, you're so funny, because this is an aside. Did you ever see that My First Million with Jesse Itzler about pickles have no branding? There's no branding in pickles. Like 90% of Americans eat pickles, but there's no like strong name brand that's like
100%,
like brand loyalty. So your thing is probiotics, prebiotics, Killer Kabbage, sauerkraut. Dude, you're on it. I love it.
And
I'll buy it. I love sauerkraut.
And not to mention the branding piece of Liquid Death, right? So it's like a $3 billion water company. So that's where I'm going with Killer Kabbage. Is, hey, and here's where my point is for the kombucha area. If you, for me anyway, when I go to Whole Foods or I go to Lazy Acres or I go to Bristol Farms, those are things. The kombucha section is saturated. Okay, there are a billion kombuchas these days because everybody was like,
yeah,
it's kind of like a beer making thing, right? It's obviously like it's fermented, it's something like that, and
yeah.
And so like I was reading up on it, and it's like it's supposed to grow from like 1.5 billion or 2 billion to like I think like something like 6 billion over the next like market cap for kombucha sales. Yeah. And for me, I'm like, man, I've really seen kombucha kind of take off over these past like probably 5 to 10 years. And so I was just like, man, go to your store, go to your local grocery store and look at the kombucha section and just count how many kombuchas there are. And it's ridiculous. It's crazy how many there are.
Yeah. All the different brands. And what's funny about kombucha is it's kind of in that weird thing where you have like fruit drink kind of thing, right? There's stuff that's actually not kombucha. I mean, it's not even fermented tea with fruit in it, right? It's something different, and it's not actually kombucha, which I there's a funny video of the Tiny Meat Gang is like their thing. It's Noel Miller and Cody
Don't tell me
Ko.
what you watch in your free time, Garrett. Don't.
No, but they go in to interview GT Dave. GT Dave it's one of the brands like GT whatever. It's one of the like OG. I brought kombucha to the US kind of thing, right? In terms of bottling and stuff. One, that's the brand that I would go to because like I know that it's actual kombucha, meaning it's like tea fermented with the mother in it. It reminds me of the Jesse Itzler story of bringing like Zico, like coconut water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all that to be said is now I go into the store and that used to be like one of five, but you're right. Like it's like this whole wall and I can't even tell because all the labels are just like rainbow colored and like within brands, there's no differentiation. I can't tell.
And so like just that piece. So for me, I was just like, I wanted to talk about something where at this point, when everybody's very health conscious and kombucha's kind of exploded, like part of me was like, it was like kombucha or sauerkraut. And if you go to the sauerkraut section, nobody's in the sauerkraut section. There's not a lot of competition.
Well, it's like yeah, it's like old. I mean, yeah, I just I mean, that's like I'll have to like find out what that episode was with Jesse Itzler on My First Million where he talks about pickles, right? That it's there. It's just there's no like somebody's not really making like these really cool pickles. Now we'll make a plug. One thing that he did mention and whatnot is Grillo's pickles. I think are like the best pickles if you can find them. They're like in a plastic tub. Now I think that I have brand loyalty towards that now. But like still, even then, it's not like Grillo's is going around like being like, dude, this is the best pickle in the world. I think you're right that like Killer Kabbage is the type of thing that you basically convince Americans to like add in this to their diet in the same way that people like got convinced to add in kombucha, right? And I'm wondering like for you, like, I mean, is that like you just thought kombucha is good, but now the sections are really messy? Like what was your thought like that kind of like thought process? Were you getting lost in the kombucha section? Like kind of like what led you down that path of thinking like is it just like you saw how the kind of like space had been saturated and so you're like I wonder what similar areas that are just like untapped and you're like well what's also fermented sauerkraut cabbage
great question. So
what's funny is you got Killer Kabbage and you got Killer Kimchi then you have Killer Kombucha and it's all KK.
KK. I like that. It could be KK could be, but like back to back Ks. We can work on that.
I know exactly what you're talking. That's exactly what I thought of, and it's a person.
Yeah,
they're dead. I don't know. No. So, anyways, I think I see what you're saying. Like you just kind of like it sparked something that you're like, hey, I think that there's an updraft overall in the market of people looking for these alternative healthy options, and you're like, dude, this is old. It's known. But you like can really build out the whole profile of what makes this like
it hasn't been absolutely saturated, right? That's where I was thinking. But also the bit of information that really that prompted me to think about this was I was watching a presentation at Stanford. I wasn't at Stanford, but it was on YouTube. And this guy, I can't remember his name, but he was actually in a recent documentary. Anyway, his name's like Chris something, but he's a researcher at Stanford, and he said that they did a study where they did a group of vegetables, like raw vegetables, like two or three servings a day, and then 2 servings of fermented food, and the 2 cohorts, right? And they said that the cohort that had the 2 servings of fermented food had more biodiversity in their gut than the people who did the regular vegetables. And he was like, and that's what we want. We want biodiversity in our gut. And so that's what ultimately was like, okay, it's a study proven. I can use that to kind of back the story of Killer Kabbage and be like, hey, if you don't like vegetables, you can literally take 2 servings of this and have a good gut, right? So it's like that same area of kombucha, guttic, that type of realm. And then we go, oh, I just need 2 servings of kimchi or cabbage, and I'm good.
Yeah. No, I think I could work that in. Like, I'm just thinking about the ways in which, like, you kind of add pickles to the
Totally.
side or something like that. It makes sense. Yeah, it's an interesting study. You talk about like just the difference there, in terms of like if you don't like either, it's like, well, the one that's gonna like higher payoff, go this route kind of thing. Like if you're gonna make the sacrifice to have
Exactly.
to add the greens or the vegetables to your plate.
And
Um,
some and like
yeah,
and vegetables get like a bad rap, right? And it's just like when people say vegetables or people think of vegetables, they're like, oh, like it's not very good. But if you think I can just add a scoop of sauerkraut to my salad or to my sandwich, we're gangster here. Um, I don't know if I said that.
yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's funny. And the whole sauerkraut thing and like just like the vegetables reminded me of I just finished the docu series
Mhm.
Live to 100, the Blue Zones project, right? So Dan Buettner is the guy that kind of had done this Blue Zones thing for I don't know decades, but it seems like he's also catching the wave, right? He's like trying to bring it back um, in terms of health and uh, all of these cultures that he explored. So this is like in Icaria off the coast of Greece, in Sardinia, in Italy, or like an island off of Italy, in Costa Rica, and then Okinawa. Like he went around the world into these different blue zones. All of them are eating uh, tons of vegetables, right? The majority of their diet is coming from like beans is like a big thing, and then like tubers, so like sweet potatoes, right? And then just like a mixture of other vegetables. So that diet thing is really interesting. A lot less in meat, so that's not like I'm anti-meat, but for me, I think I really need. I've considered basically doing a lot of these changes, right? And I just have never really found a way to like implement a sustainable way because my environment is pushing me towards like I was raised with like a meat and potatoes diet, meat and starch diet. That's not bad, but I think that like it's hard to kind of like implement those changes. And so the thing that I want to talk about is related to that kind of like long-term game is the Okinawan idea of a moai. So MOAI is primarily like a financial thing. It's like a group insurance. So it's like a credit union for insurance, basically, meaning you, me, Sean, we're gonna get together and we are all gonna pool money that if one of us
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
sick, the Moai funds will support this person. But it's not just financial, it's like relationship based, community based that like we have created our own social village that is like financially, relationally, spiritually, all that tied together. And the Blue Zones Project docu-series talked a lot about, well, hey, that of course that helps financially, but all these people are actually increasing their
yeah. Hmm.
lifespan because they are uh, in good, healthy relationships. And that is like the number one driving factor that you think, we think, well, not saying this is not a critique of sauerkraut. I'm on the kraut train, right? Um, it's that the social interaction is actually a bigger driver in long-term health outcomes, right? So that's
Yeah.
either just relationally, like meaning like you're getting the social benefit, the energy from people. You have the social support when you're feeling down or like you're sick, somebody can help you out when you're older. All these things, but like beyond that, it is. They talked a lot about. Oh, this is another section in Loma Linda, California. There's a lot of oh gosh, what are they? There's a sect of Christianity down there. I know it's like slipping my mind, but I'll think of it. I think
Okay.
about Seventh Day Adventists, right? And they're like
Okay.
huge into health as a community, and it's like everyone is supporting those healthy habits together. So I guess I'm
Hmm.
like thinking like, well, hey, you, me, Sean, we're all in this Moai together. Like we are getting healthier because we are like talking about getting healthier, and we're all like self reinforcing those habits. And I have found that it's like that's probably the missing piece is in all these changes in my past, I've tried to go about them by myself, right?
Hmm.
And I was talking
Oh yeah,
to
totally.
Molly last night about like, um, if you wanna go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? So I'm just wondering, like,
For
for
sure.
you, like, how does that idea of a moai or like a social group around life and habits and health, like, how does that look for you? How does that manifest in your world?
Yeah. So I, I will. So I'll be honest. Like for majority of the past, like I'd say like 12 to probably like 12 to 13 years, I've been kind of an outsider most of the time when it comes to like health and wellness because I am pretty devout about like living a healthy lifestyle, right?
You're a
Like
meme. My wife and her friends, they know you as the guy that like snacks on bell peppers for breakfast.
so, right, or the potato guy. Like I am literally when people think, and I don't, and I feel like I don't like promote it. Like, hey, I'm the potato. Like I don't do that. It's just I live that lifestyle, and it is a little different than most people live because, like you said, the environment around us tells us to live a certain way. Be
Mm-hmm.
willing to say, you know what, I'm going to go against that grain. Now, I'm not saying everybody do that, but it's like I have made conscious decisions to say I I feel better when I do these things, like mentally, physically, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm figuring out that living that lifestyle has allowed me to keep a clear mind and body, like a strong body, to be able to do the things that I really want to do instead of having to be shackled to the environment that I've been put in, right? So like most people are like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I got to keep this job because it's paying me a certain amount of money and I have to do that and it's part of the environment I'm in." For me, I've almost gone against the grain so much that I'm like, I can make my own way after having some success and seeing
Mm-hmm.
that happen. To your point, that's what we're trying to do
Yeah.
essentially with these schools is create an environment so that it is promoting that healthy lifestyle so that people feel ostracized if they're like,
Yeah.
hey, why don't we get a good workout today, like after school, where it's like, or let's go get a good meal. So like that's
Yeah.
to your point. It's like I have definitely fought an uphill battle, even within my family. Like we'd go on trips, like vacation. I still remember going on vacation, and I would go work out, and my older brother would be like, "Dude, we're on vacation. Like you don't have to work out all the time, you know." And I, partly get that. I get that, but it's just like it's just it makes
Mm-hmm.
me feel good. Also, like I had big aspirations too when I was like in college and mid 20s and stuff for athleticism. So that's probably a big driver too. But now I feel like more than ever, I just go, man,
Yeah.
the healthy decisions I'm making allow me to make good decisions in other aspects of my life, so that I can create
Mm-hmm.
create that
Yeah.
individuality and like or whatever. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I mean, I know, like I've watched you for, we've been friends for years, and like I've seen you, like make jokes about you going against the grain, and I try to make healthy decisions too. But like, ultimately, you put it correctly that you had to like fight and go against the grain and like try really hard. That the idea of a social circle that includes promoting pressures to do healthy things, it's kind of like it's peer pressure, right? Like you're in a social environment and it's like, hey, well, for example, like for your family, not saying that you should have like taken them to work out with you, but it's like, hey, well, why don't we just like take like, hey, let's go on a morning walk. That sounds relaxing, right? And even just like as like everyone together getting out and walking, like that's another thing that the Blue Zones Project, identified is that, a lot of these groups are like building social connections around these continuous exercise things. It's not really exercise. They're not going to go do something. They're like, we just walk. We go between here and church and we walk. We go between here and work and we walk. So I'm not saying it's hard. It's hard in the U.S. because we're spread out, right? But the idea is, um, uh, you are a good influence on the people around you, but then also those other people kind of help reinforce that together. And so that's one thing that I've noticed just being around you is I think about water, right? I think about getting sunlight. I think about walking. Whereas previously, especially with athletics, it was like I had this dedicated training regimen, and then outside of that, it's like I don't really think about physical activity at all, right? And now I'm more convinced that uh, it's like environment and social circles, and then trying to make those things together, like building your own group of people who are working together to get better is like the number one. driver in life satisfaction, health outcomes, and like long-term like longevity, right? That's the thing that I just found to be most amazing is you think it's a pill, a specific workout regimen, a modality, like you got to be a runner or you got to be a walker or whatever, but it's all about people. Like surround yourself with the right people that will help reinforce all those things and kind of draw you back towards making those right decisions. And then you kind of like this virtuous cycle, upward spiral of like everyone's reinforcing each other's habits and we're all getting healthier together in really, really small nudges versus in these
for sure
big leaps and bounds, right?
And just to add on to what you were saying, it's I was when I got the kind of the pushback from the people in my environment, I kind of basically said, okay, I have to do this on my own. And I kind of shut everybody out. And so I kind of like made my own little bubble. And I was like, hey guys, if you don't want to do this, I'm going to do this on my own little where I think and I was a very introverted person as well. So I was like the type of person that I was like, hey, if you don't want to do this, I'm not going to force this on you. And so I think for me now, it's more of, hey, for them to understand where I'm coming from or why I'm doing this is super important because I just didn't communicate very well back then, I don't think. Or just openly enough. I was very introverted. I say I didn't learn how to talk until like 5-6 years ago. But it's so true because I was literally like, my actions should speak louder than my words, right? Like, and that was my whole thing where I was just like, if I just do these things, they're going to be like, oh, like that's just who Austin is. And, we're going to support it. It's like, so for anybody who's, coming up and feels like they're running against the grain or like pushing against and people just don't get it in the health and wellness, I don't want to say it works for everything, but like explain like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. And like, really talk to those people because I think they would understand a little more and they'd be, oh, okay, cool. That's good to know. Like, and then maybe ask them if they want to join because maybe they're putting it off like they don't care.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're just like, I kind of like, I'm interested and I just want him to ask me. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's like a lot of push and pull there about like asking people to say like, hey, would you like to come along with me? Maybe that's what they're waiting for is that invite to say like, oh, I'd love to join you, but I'm inexperienced in the gym or I don't really know how to eat well. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits to a lot of your educational material that you've churned out over the years is like helping people just kind of like get a handle on like, well, how do I do this? Right. Just that study that's like, hey, if you wanted to do a small thing, just add 2 servings of fermented vegetables to your dishes. Like here are 3 recipes that you can use that use pickles or kimchi or sauerkraut. Boom. Right. That kind of like small thing to bring people along with you. And I also found that sometimes I found in my life that I've tried to reach across and bring people with me. And either they didn't want to do that, or they felt like what I was doing was so unattainable that what I was asking them to do was something like, I can't be you. Right. And that's where I think that the healthiest meaning like just kind of like emotionally healthy aspect of what we're doing with Fly Bodies is it's the Roth IRA, the minimum, like the 5-5, right? Hey, get outside for 15 minutes in the morning. Just get a little sunlight in your eyes, right? Help reset your clock. Drink half your body weight in fluid ounces. Have an eating window. It's kind of like just set some boundaries for yourself. Moderate to intense exercise throughout the week, and then just like healthy sleep habits. Like those are things that are attainable, and that we're reinforcing those habits for each other. And that baseline takes you. It's incredible how far that baseline actually takes you based on the research versus hard 75. I'm going to go do hard 75 because I need to reset my life. I'm feeling a little blah. And it's like, yeah, bro, like how about sustainable life, right? not knocking hard 75. It can help you reset. But like, are you going to do hard 75 for the rest of your life?
But that's the extremes of Americans. I don't know if it's just Americans, but I think it's probably our culture. We're so extreme. Yep. So that hard 75 sounds like, oh, if I conquer this hard 75, I did it.
Well, but it's also long game versus short game, and this is where the
Totally.
Moai thing came in, and
Yes.
this is where the blue zones are recognizing that the reason why these people are regularly, at a 5 times, 10 times rate compared to Americans living to 100 years or more, is because their daily lives are filled with activity. Their daily lives are filled with socialization. Their daily lives are filled with these healthy habits, whereas you and I, and I'll just say for me in my life, I've always kind of looked for like, well, what is the short term, the burst that I can give myself that'll push me over the edge, and then I'm good to go, versus thinking long term and saying, okay, I will still do those things. I'm still going to be intense. I'm still going to, train for, athletics. I'm still going to do these things. But what is my baseline that I'm never going to stray from, that I know that I can do, that's actually going to carry me through long term? Because, your performance in sports, like for you and I, rugby, is actually sometimes counter to long term health, sometimes like injuries or just kind of body weight or these things. So to that point, it's a culture mindset of what's the pill, what's the quick fix, what's the short term thing that I can just burst and do, and then not worry about this. And that's because you have to, what we're doing right now, right? We're talking about, in order to do that thing, you kind of have to burst out of your environment and say, I need to go to a gym. I need to leave my environment and go to a place. I need to, I need to buy into a program to leave my environment in order to make the change, versus the socialization aspect of like these small environmental changes, so that you're picking up the steps along the way. You're picking up the good eating habits and sleeping habits and socialization habits along the way. And that's really, I think, is the main benefit of this whole thing is, um, the Blue Zones project stuff, the Moai that I love, as well as just fly bodies in general, is, hey, like, how do we come together and show just like these are kind of the building blocks that you and I can maintain for our lifetime, and how amazing you'll feel just with this little bit, like the trade-off in terms of time spent on that, mental energy spent on that, versus the outcome
And to
I mean,
help and to
I thought it'd
help
be amazing.
try to change your environment, it helps to have like outside professionals slash experts giving that information, and not you trying to always change it from within. Because I will say, like, you're like, to be honest, your family members are probably the last people that are going to want to listen to you tell them how to be healthy, since you've been around 15, 20, 30 years, right? And so they don't want to hear it from you. Like,
100%.
the people in your environment don't always want to hear it from you. So it's good to have like some outside books, like the Blue Zones documentary, experts like Andrew Huberman, like those types of things allow you to kind of like pick those little things and bring them in and be like, hey, check this out. This is actually super helpful. It's like with the startup mentality, like it's hard for me to be like, hey, this is going to work, and people believe me, because obviously our company is not like a multi-million dollar, billion-dollar company yet. But these people, this is what they did, and this is why it could work. So that's what I wanted to give that bit of information, because that's been super helpful for me to point people in experts' directions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely a big value for the expert opinion and like and scientifically backed stuff. And that's what I appreciate from your perspective is like you have a lot of experience yourself, a lot of anecdotal evidence, more around the implementation. Like you're trying to help people adapt these habits. And so how do we go
Exactly.
about that? But all of the material that you have brought is like not Austin's bro science. It's like, it's, Sachin Panda and Huberman and like the Stanford studies, all these things that you're pulling the best, peer reviewed research and implementation and saying, hey, you don't need to reinvent the wheel because scientists are already kind of discovering this. Like, how do we take this and bring it to a really practical place of implementation? So, no, I appreciate your focus on leaning into your realm of expertise, and I really think it lies in understanding that technical stuff and then like bringing it to the masses in a really digestible way. Meaning, that's like a parallel to your Killer Kraut, right?
So Killer Kraut, Killer Kabbage, Killer Kabbage. Anyways, I think that's a good first start, dude. I think that we cut it there.
Oh yeah, we're good.
We hit a lot of
We can
different
land it
topics,
here.
and dude,